well, welcome everybody. Mike Schindler here with Operation Military Family and the whole Vision 2020 Live on Purpose series. As many of you know, we are going to be hopefully hosting a big Vision 2020 conference in October. But with a pandemic, we don't know what's going to be taking place. Several of our keynote speakers have agreed to do these webinars, 15, 20 minutes, where we're just kind of give them the opportunity to share their story and kind of plug in and give you guys just a sense of what they went through, how they're navigating this period of time, some things that you guys can plug into now. And with us today is Frank Shankwitz. And if you guys do not know who Frank is, you are in for a treat. So Frank, a little bit of background, served in the Air Force, then became an Arizona, I guess you call him a bike cop. Is that right, Frank?
Motorcycle officer.
Motorcycle officer. Okay. Right. Get the terminology right. And here's the beautiful thing about Frank. His story is so compelling, but the very cool part amongst the lives that he has changed is he is the co-founder of Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is one of the world's biggest, if not most impactful nonprofits in the entire world. The lives that it has changed. A feature film came out on Frank, a book came out on Frank, and Frank is actually going to quiz me as well. I know he's going to do that through this interview. But Frank, I want to say welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate the invite. It's a shame we had to cancel for up in Seattle. I was really looking forward to that, but I know it's going to happen in October. So.
Yep, we're claiming it. We're claiming it. So, Frank, the reason we're doing this is to kind of provide hope for others, right? And you and I talked about that because there's so much pandemic going on, or the pandemic period. And people, uncertainty in life, trials in life, different things that people are dealing with. And yet, if I just turn it over to you for a moment, I want you to share with the audience kind of your experience, your childhood. You were faced with a lot of uncertainty.
Well, yeah, and it was somewhat of a unique in childhood, enough so that Hollywood decided to make a movie about it, but not so much different than any of the other children during that time. And this is in the 40s, 50s, early 60s, the infant to teen years, and mainly about the people that influenced me in my life. My mother divorced my dad when I was 2, took off. We never had any idea where. At 5 years old, she kidnapped me off a playground. I had no idea who this lady was. And for the next 5 years on the run, my father looking for us, living in the car, living in tents, living in flop houses, food always an issue, just a very poor existence. But during that time, I learned survival about myself, how to start taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And then very fortunate at age 10, we ended up in Arizona, a little town called Schindler. And this is where a mentor, a father figure, started really impacting my life. And taught me so many things. Biggest thing, work ethic, integrity, how to develop character. Character, in fact, and integrity is developed, it's not inherited. But also taught me important things about how to give back. And 10 years old, I was working full-time washing dishes, and the poor people in this little town were helping us out. And he told me one day, Juan Delgadillo is his name, in fact, we feature him in the movie Wish Man. And he said, Frank, when you can, give back. And I said, Juan, how do you give back? The poor people are helping us. And he said, you don't have to have money to give back. You give back your time. An example, look at the widow Sanchez. She's always bringing you and your mom beans and tortillas to help you out, to feed you. Look at her front yard. It's full of weeds. Look at her porch. It needs sanded. It needs painted. You're big enough to do that. You can give back that way. And that's a lesson that I've tried to achieve my whole life, and especially in today's pandemic type thing, to give back. Now, it's amazing if you watch TV, you see all the negative things, but look at all the positive things that are happening with give back, with people donating food, with people helping out in grocery stores. I'll pay for these groceries you're getting. For the big corporations, the Marriott chain, if you're a essential worker, health aid, whatever, and you need a place to stay, we're going to give it to you. We're not going to charge you for the rooms. Airlines providing free transportation to get medical care back and forth across the United States. The guy from My Pillow, I can't hear his name, shutting down his factory and started making surgical masks at no cost. I mean, just look at this. It's America. Everybody helping out again, giving back.
And I think you keyed in on a few things that I think are so important here, Frank, that I want to kind of bring attention to. And you talked about survival, your childhood, how it taught you survival skills and what it meant to survive, which I think some are beginning to wonder if they have to develop their own sense of survival skills, and mentorship, which I think is truly important. Talk to me a little bit about today in the mentorship, and then we'll go back and I want to talk about an epiphany in your life, but not yet. But the power of mentorship today, how important is that for people when, some are sheltering in place, some are quarantined? What does mentorship in your mind look like?
Well, again, listening to people. We talked about, first of all, starting the Make-A-Wish Foundation years ago. And I'm a police officer. I'm Arizona Highway Patrol, like you said, a motorcycle cop.
Yep.
And when we started this, I had no idea how to do a nonprofit, but I did it. I made it happen. I had that idea, made it work, but it took a lot of people. But I started surrounding myself, what I learned in college and what you still do today, is people smarter than you. Look for those people, seek their advice, seek their input. I always like to say, I'm going to give you suggestions. I'm not going to tell you how to do something. I'm going to give you these suggestions. You filter it out, see what works for you. And in today's world, the same thing with these mentors that you develop, that you can listen to. Everything from online to your own personal friends, grandparents, my God, look, they've been through this. They know what's going on.
Yeah.
The same thing, especially your great-grandparents back from World War II days, rationing. I remember that as a very little boy, the rationing things. You go to the store, you can get 1 quart of milk. You can get a thing of lard with coloring that makes it look like butter. It's called oil.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we don't get there, right?
Right, right. But again, just listen to people and then sort it out, filter it out. Is this going to work for me? Is it not?
Yeah. So it's and I think what I like, the number of different things that I like about what you're saying, but part of it is I think this general sense of being curious instead of, really it's about finding ways that you can tap other people's experiences without having to go through the experience yourself, right? That is the power of mentorship. And
exactly, yes.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're keen on. I want to go back to a period of time, and your movie Wishman, which, by the way, on Netflix, great movie, Frank. You in a book. Yeah, I got to tell you, I was watching this movie last night because you challenged me to watch this movie, but I got intrigued by your story and what you were like as a youth. And youth, I'm saying, 20s and 30s. But you had an epiphany moment. And why don't you describe for the audience what that epiphany moment was? Because that's kind of what catapulted you into truly having this sense of giving back, correct?
And catapult is a good word, what we're going to describe.
Yeah.
I was on patrol. I was on a motorcycle squad 10-man unit that worked the whole state of Arizona, 2 weeks in one town, 2 weeks in another. And we were in a little town area called Parker, Arizona during the Easter break. 2,000 people in Parker, Arizona, grew to 85, 90,000 because of the college kids coming in there. It's right on the Colorado River. And I was in a high-speed chase with a drunk driver, 85 miles an hour in a 25 zone. When another drunk driver pulled right in front of me, I couldn't do what we call a break and escape maneuver, hit him broadside at 85 miles an hour. And your catapult was a good word because that's what happened. And they said the crash was spectacular, but I was pronounced dead at the scene. Now, obviously, we're talking here, and it's the rest of the story. My partner tried to revive me. He couldn't do it. He called into code 963, officer killed in the line of duty. An off-duty emergency room nurse from California stopped, said, please let me try and revive him. They said, he's dead. We can't bring him back. Well, obviously, she didn't listen, and obviously, you and I are talking today. But that was that moment because it resulted in a lot of broken bones, massive brain injury, skull fracture. It took a long time to recover, almost 6 months. But during that period and towards the end, towards counseling, and make sure my head was right to go back to work along with the therapy and everything else. The counselor said to me, God spared you for a reason. And now it's up to you to find that reason.
Mm.
And it was 2 years later that I did, in fact, find that reason.
And so talk to us about that reason. That was kind of Make-A-Wish Foundation. That's kind of how that got started. Is that correct?
Yeah, and that's in 1980, and I'm patrolling way up in northern Arizona, and I get a call from our commander, check out a telephone. There's no cell phones during these days. This
Yeah.
is 1980. And I call in and they say, we have just been informed of a 7-year-old boy named Chris, and a U.S. Customs agent named Tom Austin has befriended the family and learned that Chris's heroes are Ponch and John from a television show called Chips that
Man,
was
I love
very
that show.
popular, very
Frank,
popular during that
I
day.
wanted to be a bicycle officer at that point. Yeah.
And he told Agent Austin, when I grow up, I wish I could be a motorcycle officer like Ponch and John. And we had gone through our training, initial training with California Highway Patrol. Our equipment was identical. Our uniforms were almost identical, except obviously ours at Arizona. And he said, is there any way that you can meet one of the motorcycle officers and just hang out for a day? Now, this little boy is in the hospital on IVs, unfortunately, terminal leukemia, and only a couple weeks to live for his doctor.
Mm.
So the Highway Patrol set it up where we would pick him up at his hospital in our state police helicopter and fly him to our headquarters building. And they instructed me to get down to Phoenix, so almost 100 miles away. And we're going to time it when I'm approaching the landing zone when the helicopter's coming in. Chris is going to see the motorcycle officer pull in. And it worked out fine. Now, I had no idea what to expect. I never met this little boy. And I'm expecting our paramedics to help him out. The helicopter approaching, all I see is his face plastered against the window with a big smile. And doors open, little red pair of sneakers jumps out, runs with the motorcycle. Hi, I'm Chris. Can I get on your motorcycle? Well, of course you can, Chris. Now, he had watched Chips so much that he knew every button and switch because our equipment is identical. This is a siren. These are the red lights. What's in your saddlebag? The same as Ponch.
Yeah.
I'm looking over at his mother and she's crying. And why is she crying? Then it dawned on me, she has her 7-year-old back. He's not laying in a bed with IVs. He's jumping all over like a 7-year-old.
Mm.
And that day he became the first and only Highway Patrol officer, honorary Highway Patrol officer at that point in the history to become the full officer, including making him a motorcycle officer, including a custom-made uniform. More important to him, his wings.
Wow.
And unfortunately, he died a couple of days later. And I always like to think those motorcycle wings helped carry him to heaven. But I was just going to say, flying back, he's buried in Illinois. And the press picked this up. And again, this is before the days of internet. And we were met at a little town called Kewanee, Illinois, by Illinois State Police, City Police, County Police, all wanting to help to bury this little officer that we had lost.
Holy smokes. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm getting teary, Frank. You telling me this story, this isn't supposed to happen. This is incredible.
Well, and that's the very condensed version. There's obviously a lot more to it, but
Yeah.
And it's featured in our movie.
It is. It's a great movie. I'm telling you, it's such a good movie. And for those of you that are plugging into this, Wish Man, you've got to check it out. It's on Netflix. The early days of Frank will amuse you. Let me just say that the early days of Frank will amuse you. I found it very amusing. Your story is very compelling. There's some questions that are just flying in here, Frank, and I want to get to some of these and keep going too. But Danielle asks, were you nervous and thinking that maybe you wouldn't live up to this little boy's dream?
Well, no, we made it happen. We made his wish happen. It became that motorcycle officer. And flying home from Illinois back to Arizona, that's when I started thinking, here's a little boy who had a wish and we made it happen. Why can't we do that for other children? And that's when the idea of Make-A-Wish Foundation was born. Let's start this foundation. And then it was for terminal children. Leukemia was a death sentence. They didn't survive these things.
Yeah.
And let the child make a wish and we'll make it happen. And had an idea and it made it work. And now look at this, through thousands of people worldwide that makes this idea grow and work. We're now over 500,000 wishes granted worldwide. We have chapters in 46 countries on 5 continents and 61 or 2 chapters in the United States. all because of one little boy.
Wow. See, that's what I love about your story is, sometimes I think people, even, when there's tragedy or trials or circumstances, which you are still recovering through yours, and yet all it took was one little child to really balloon this up to be something that is impacting hundreds of thousands of lives. And I want people to grab onto that piece because, in a pandemic, we're all probably going to have to rewrite our story to some degree. And there's opportunity in tragic moments or difficult moments. And I think that's the power behind your story. Gina wrote in, she says, you mentioned giving back. What would you say has been the best moment you've experienced giving back, Frank?
Well, obviously, to start the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Yeah.
And that go on. But I'm involved right now with 6 different, in fact, I just got appointed, I can't say the new nonprofit, as a board member, but I'm on 6 nonprofits all around the nation right now, which gives me the opportunity to give a little bit of expertise to help fundraising and to continue that whole thing of giving back. But I'm going to go back several years. When I joined the Highway Patrol, I was stationed down in Yuma, Arizona, on the Mexican-Arizona border. And while there, I was continuing college classes. And one of my coaches came up to me one day and said, I know you're a high school football coach. And have you ever heard of Special Olympics? And I said, no, I haven't. And he explained the program to me, asked if I'd be a coach on that. Well, yeah, that'd be fun. Well, it turned out to be one of the most fun things at that period of my life. And again, now this is 1972, way before Make-A-Wish. But Juan Delgadillo, my mentor as a young boy, always said, Frank, when you can, give back. And that's the first time all those years later, I thought, wow, Juan, I think I'm finally starting to give back by helping out these kids. And that was actually the catalyst that got me involved with all the children.
Wow, that's incredible. Joe, he wrote in, he said, a lot of people would have given up after being involved in an accident like you experienced. He wants to know, how did you prepare your mind to overcome the physical and mental challenges that you were facing?
Well, and during that, just before that accident, during that whole period, my marriage was falling apart, divorced, very unhappy with things that were going on. I was also assigned what they call a fatal squad. They took 10 men and gave us some of the best training in the United States to investigate the horrific fatal accidents. Even though the normal highway patrol officers could handle these, they didn't have the type of training we did. So they would call us in to take care of this, to get this resolved right away. And it's just a depression in my life almost. Going through the PTSD, going to the counseling. But again, it just, Juan Delgadillo, again, my mentor as a young boy, turned those negatives to positives. And when I started 7th grade, my mother abandoned me. And she said, you're on your own, and took off. And I went to Juan and I said, what am I going to do here? I'm 7 years old. I'm in 7th grade. And he said, well, listen, learn to turn those negatives to positive. You make $26 a week washing dishes. That was a lot of money back in the 50s. Yeah. And he said, you're going to live, I've arranged for you to live with the widow Sanchez. She's only going to charge you $20 room and board. For the first time in your life, you're going to have $6 of your own in your pocket. That's a positive, because everything I ever made went straight to my mother. You're going to have your own bedroom for the first time in your life. That's a positive. She's the best cook in town. You don't have to worry about meals anymore. That's a positive. So I've always maintained that. Even today, in my senior years, any negative type thing comes up, like this pandemic, how we're going to turn that from that negative to a positive. You got to keep that upbeat type thing all the time.
Yeah. So Frank, let's talk about that upbeat thing. Is that, and that's such a great answer, but is that being Pollyanna in the face of danger, or the face of, pandemic, whatever, or is it truly, it almost seems like an art and a science between how do you master the ability to say, man, I'm maybe, people are taking a financial hit, or maybe they're emotionally, right? Or spiritually even beginning to question things. How do you take those moments and turn those into positives?
Well, and everybody has hiccups in their life.
Yeah.
From infancy through even now, the hiccups happen. It's not all lollipops and rainbows and everything. Yeah. How do you handle those? And surround yourself with positive people. That's the biggest thing that I see. Why do I want to be around negative people? Oh, woe is me, woe is me. the sky is falling, Chicken Little. Surround yourself with the positive people. And I filter those people out. If it's a bunch of negative people, sorry, we'll see you around. I just don't have room for you. I don't need that mindset going into my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. You know, Shelley wrote in, she said, has there ever been a wish you weren't able to fulfill?
Yeah, now I think we're a mature audience here, right?
Yeah. Yes, we are. Yep.
And there was a young boy who wanted, 16 years old, and this was in Arizona, wanted to visit the chicken ranch. That was his wish. Now, the wish granters there said, oh my God, there's a great big chicken farm outside of Phoenix. We'll take him there, whatever he wants to do and see it. Well, the chicken ranch he's referring to was a house of ill repute up in Reno, Nevada.
The wrong chicken ranch. Yeah.
The chicken ranch, right.
Yeah.
And when they came to me and told me, I was on the board at that time, and told me about that, I said, well, ladies, let me explain what's going on. They're so embarrassed. And no, he didn't get to have his wish. His alternate wish was to go to Disney. So fine, we'll send him to Disney.
Yeah, you're going to hang with Mickey. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. So you do a ton of nonprofit work. You're on a number of different boards. You do stuff with, our veterans or service members. You do stuff for homeless. Talk to us a little bit about LevelUp Home. What is that all about?
Oh, LevelUp Homes. Wow, that's up in your area, up in Seattle.
Yeah.
And when a foster child ages out of the system, they're removed from the system. When they turn 18 years old, I like to say they're kicked out. And in so many cases, they're given a trash bag, a big plastic trash bag, put your belongings in here. You're on the street. They have nowhere to go. And back in my narcotics years, and that's not as a user, as an undercover agent.
Yeah.
We arrest so many of these kids. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Yeah, well, we have nowhere to go. I'm trying to make some money. I'm trying to make a living. So we've developed up in Seattle area, LevelUp Homes, where from ages 18 to 23, we're developing homes for these children to go into from those age periods. And they can finish, so many are not even out of high school yet. They can finish high school. They can go into college, junior college, whatever they want to do, job training, learn how to become a new adult. I love that word.
I love it.
Yeah. And but it gives them a sense of security, so they're not out on those streets. And we're in the baby infancies of this thing. We're 501c3 right now, but we're already getting requests all over the nation. How do I do this in LA, San Francisco, Chicago, New York, New Jersey? How can we do this? And this is going to be big, I think, just like Make-A-Wish, once this really gets going, because these children obviously are in every state.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and what I love is that you're committed to helping people get back on a pathway of success, number one, but also helping people achieve, some form of dream if they're at, close to end of life, if they're checking out early. And I think, Frank, I love your spirit about this. And today people need that bit of hope. Is there one or two things that you would say are part of your daily routine that people could probably implement in their own life to kind of get their mind right through this whole thing?
Stay busy.
Yeah. Idle minds go to waste, right?
Yeah. Now I'm so fortunate, and I'm boasting here a little bit because of this movie on now it's on Netflix, as you mentioned. By the way, Mike, what's the name of my dog in the movie?
Man, I had to listen to that a couple times. I had to keep going back, Frank, but the name of your dog was Corky. And,
all right.
and my daughter was watching it, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, this is the worst part of the movie right here." Yeah.
But again, just stay focused. Now, I'm mentioning it because of this movie. I get 20 to 30 messages every day from all over the world what an impact this movie has made. Now, you talk about staying busy. If they take the time to write to me, then I feel I've got to take the time to write back to them. And that takes up 4 or 5 hours every day. I just got one yesterday from Johannesburg, South Africa, of all things. These messages are coming in all over the world. But staying focused on the nonprofits I'm involved with, I have no spare time.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate right now, kind of because of this stay-at-home thing, where you and I are in fact talking, because I'm usually on an airplane every week somewhere, and now I'm catching up on these podcasts. And I'm very appreciative that you're inviting me to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Frank, we hope we get you back on in October. We hope we get the all clear We can get people in relationship that they can hear more of your story. There's so much to you, and we're just covering just a little bit of it. And I encourage, and we're coming up on time, but I want to encourage our audience to, look it up, look up your movie, look up Make-A-Wish Foundation, look up Wishman. That is such a good movie. I found it on Netflix. It's so good. I love how the theme is everyone can be a hero, because to your point, everyone can be a hero regardless of income, regardless of their finances.
Right. And like I said earlier, you don't have that money to give back. You can give back your time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. Frank, if people wanted to reach out to you, if they wanted to follow you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram. But if you're interested in the book, the movie, you can go to my website, Wishman1, the number one, wishman1.com, and contact me through there. I am selling copies of the book, autographed copies of the book and movie, but just to make contact. As simple as that.
Yeah, I love that. And our audience will be invited to reach out to you. They'll be invited to plan to attend Vision 2020 in October. If for whatever reason we don't do it in October, we're going to do it in March. We're going to do it sometime. We're going to pull this talent pool together and really work to give people hope. So Frank, I just want to thank you for your time. You have been awesome. I can't wait to see you in person. And thank you for sharing your story.
And again, thank you for the invite, Mike, and so long.
Yeah, you betcha. Thank you, my friend. And to our audience, thank you for joining. Be sure you guys look up Frank. Be sure you look up that movie, Wish movie to watch the weekend. I think you'll be inspired by it. So don't lose hope. Just plug in to find that is going to catapult you or be the catalyst for you to do something amazing. And remember, it doesn't necessarily take money to get this thing started. Frank started with a dream. He started with one little boy, just impacting hundreds of thousands. And you can do that too. So it's time to rewrite her story. Frank, thanks again.
So long.